911 call came in, and what he had hidden in the hallway of the 32nd floor of that hotel right here behind me. We are seeing inside the hotel the door that SWAT teams broke down. It turns out he had a camera attached to a cart in the hallway so he would know when police were moving in to get him. One of the 23 weapons he had with him in that room, the evidence marker still in place. And tonight, video of that very room taken by a tourist who stayed in that room just a year ago, and the view from the window right down onto that concert site. The gunman checked into that hotel with 10 suitcases. Those suitcases were full of weapons. ABC senior national correspondent Matt Gutman on the suspect's final 48 hours.
This was the crowd at the Harvest Festival, 22,000 people joining together for God Bless America. But high above the Las Vegas Strip, another spectator was watching them, a mass murderer. And just 1 hour later, tonight we're learning about how 64-year-old Stephen Paddock planned his attack. Authorities say he checked into the glittering Mandalay Bay Resort last Thursday. And it was on September 28th that he checked in carrying multiple bags and likely passing a sign just like this. But Paddock didn't just bring in a firearm, he brought an arsenal. 10 suitcases, 23 guns. Today, our first glimpse inside that hotel room. An AR-15 seen through the battered doorway of the shooter's luxury suite. That gun outfitted with a scope typically used for hunting and a bipod to stabilize the weapon. Parts of what eyewitnesses called that kill box were a full 5 football fields away from that shooter's perch up there on the 32nd floor, a range which would have been impossible had he just been using handguns instead of those long guns. He shuttered himself in his suite, taking in room service, say police, as the Country Music Festival kicked off on Friday, waiting. Sunday, that joy turning to panic. When at 10:08 p.m., high above the crowds, police say Paddock hammered through 2 of the hotel's thick windows and started firing down on the crowd below. On the ground, people running, huddling together, shots fired for nearly 9 minutes. Then officers and security guards spot the shooter.
I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay, halfway up.
But as SWAT teams approach the 32nd floor, tonight we're learning the shooter may have had eyes on them. Police say he'd set up at least 2 cameras, one monitoring the hallway seen right there on that service cart, possibly to monitor law enforcement, the other inside his room. And when officers finally broke down the door,
breach.
Paddock was already dead.
Just some chilling new details tonight. Matt Gutman with us live here in Las Vegas. And Matt, we know the gunman stayed in that room undetected for days, those suitcases full of weapons, even ordering room service several times.
That's right, David. Room service. In fact, the sheriff saying that multiple hotel employees had been in that room before the shooting, which begs the major question, given how elaborate Paddock's setup had been with those 10 cases of luggage, the 23 firearms, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and of course those cameras, how nobody noticed anything suspicious. David.
Yeah, somehow it went unnoticed. Matt Gutman leading us off. Matt, thank you. And there was another major development late today. The gunman's longtime girlfriend, Marilou Danley, right now out of the country, is now being called a person of interest tonight. ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross.
Authorities tonight labeled the shooter's girlfriend, Marilou Danley, as central to the ongoing investigation, much more than simply another witness.
Currently, she's a person of interest.
Especially after the discovery by police of so many weapons, so much ammunition and explosives at the home they shared in Mesquite, Nevada.
How could she not know what was going on in her own house with these weapons? She had to know something, at the very least question him as to where are these weapons coming from? Why do you have all these weapons?
According to documents obtained by ABC News, Danley, who uses an Australian passport, traveled to her home country, the Philippines, 2 weeks before the shooting on September 15th. Paddock actually visited her family in the Philippines 4 years ago. One of them posted these photos on Facebook. Now U.S. officials want to know why Paddock began to transfer tens of thousands of dollars to someone in the Philippines just prior to the shooting.
Well, I anticipate a substantial amount of information to come in the next 48 hours.
According to relatives, Danley apparently met Paddock at this hotel casino in Reno, where she worked as a hostess to entertain high rollers like Paddock. Employees at this bar in Mesquite and former neighbors say the couple were regulars, drinking beer and tequila and playing video poker and the slots.
So he just one time, pulled his phone out and said, here's a picture of the slot machine where we won $20,000.
Brian Ross joins us live tonight. And Brian, we heard you report there that authorities are now calling the shooter's girlfriend a person of interest. They're making plans for her to return to the U.S.?
Yes, David, the FBI is actually involved in making sure she gets on a plane to come back to the U.S., which we're told could happen in the next 24 hours, David.
Brian Ross again tonight. For the first time, we were given access today to one of the trauma wards at a hospital right here in Las Vegas. One of the surgeons taking us from room to room, and we met the survivors. One of them, a 19-year-old girl brought on the back of a pickup truck. The ER suddenly overflowing. Doctors didn't even know who they were operating on. It was happening so fast. They simply moved in and saved lives. We head into Desert Springs Hospital Medical Center here in Las Vegas, where more than 100 victims were rushed in.
So have you caught your breath at all?
Yeah. Peter Caravella is a surgeon here who got the emergency call at 11 o'clock Sunday night.
We got here, there was probably 50 or 60 people in the ER.
There were 50 or 60 people here already?
Already, before we got here.
It sounds as though there were so many patients you didn't even have time. You didn't even know who these patients were.
Had no idea. The ER docs really did a great job. They basically triaged everybody and said, this one's critical, this one needs this one needs that. And we basically just went bed to bed to bed.
4 of the victims were pronounced dead shortly after they arrived here. So many of the patients with multiple gunshot wounds. And this surgeon tells me this time it was different.
Oh my God.
We saw different pieces of the machinery and artillery that were basically dispersed throughout the abdomen, chest.
So it appeared as though this suspect wanted to inflict maximum damage here.
Clearly.
The surgeon takes us into Sheldon Mack's room, one of the patients he helped save. Sheldon was at the concert for his 21st birthday.
Sheldon.
This kind of all happened so fast and it seems surreal. It seems just a bad nightmare to wake up from, but I just keep seeing it in my mind still, and it's just haunts me.
You see it all playing out still?
Yeah.
He showed me the video he took of the concert just moments before the gunfire began.
And you were seeing people around you
Yeah,
get hit
I saw
first?
a girl like 2 rows ahead of me, and she got hit in the neck and went down.
Sheldon began trying to help the people around him, and then he got shot twice, in the arm and in the abdomen.
Some hero come and save me and throw me and take care of me. Which,
do you know his name?
I wish I did.
And he came all the way to the hospital with you?
Yeah, he wouldn't leave my side. He saved my life.
He tells us he still wants to meet that hero, and his mom and dad would like to meet him too. They know their son still has so many questions, among them, why?
He was saying, why would someone do this, such evil? I have a life ahead of me. Why does someone want to kill me and leave me lying on this field and everybody else?
There was McKenna Perry, too. She is just 19 years old, shot in the arm. It then went straight through to her abdomen. It was her boyfriend and Good Samaritans who helped save her, putting her in the back of a truck.
Were you in the back of a pickup truck?
Yeah. He only had like a 2-seater truck, so I was laying in the bed with his girlfriend and my boyfriend.
In the back?
Yeah.
And it was open?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it takes. I'm glad it got you here.
She can't get that night out of her head.
I don't know, it still hasn't fully hit me. It's kind of starting to, but not fully.
It's hard to even think about.
I just know that there's a lot of people that had it a lot worse. So it's kind of just hard to know that there's a lot of people dead from it too.
And her mother was at the concert too.
And your daughter was saying the hard part is knowing that so many people didn't get out.
I think that's the hard part for all of us, and seeing what we saw, and I think as a mom is knowing that they had to see that, and that stuck with them forever.
The surgeon told us that both of those patients are going to be okay, and they're grateful to those doctors and nurses. And as for Sheldon, he wants to meet that hero who was right there by his side. They believe that the hero was grazed by a bullet too, but is no longer at the hospital. So if that hero is watching tonight, Sheldon's family wants to thank you. We turn now to President Trump in Puerto Rico today, meeting with officials, including the mayor of San Juan. She went on live TV begging the administration for help, and he then took aim at her on Twitter. He also tweeted of Puerto Rico, they want everything done for them. What his message was today when he landed there, ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl from Puerto Rico.
There's never been a presidential visit to a disaster zone quite like this one. At a church in San Juan, President Trump tossed paper towels to hurricane victims as if he were playing basketball.
There's a lot of love in this room.
Sitting right next to Puerto Rico's governor, he touted the death count as if he were keeping score.
If you look at a real catastrophe like Katrina, and you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died, what is your death count as of this moment? 17?
16 certified.
16 people certified. 16 people versus in the thousands. You can be very proud.
And even as he talked up the federal recovery effort,
the whole team has been amazing.
The president couldn't help bringing up the high cost.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack.
Also in the room, the mayor of San Juan, who the president has slammed relentlessly on Twitter for saying Puerto Rico needs more than it's getting. Afterwards, the mayor called the meeting productive, but on CNN, she dismissed the presidential visit as public relations.
Rather than commander-in-chief, he sort of becomes miscommunicator-in-chief.
But not far from there, we met up with Hector Garcia. He had no idea the president was on the island, but he tells us he's happy he's here. He came here, Garcia told us, because he knows we're in crisis.
David, the governor is being diplomatic tonight. He says he appreciates the president's visit and his commitment to the island of Puerto Rico. He wants to see relief efforts continue, including things like the U.S. Naval Hospital ship Comfort behind me. This just got here today, 2 weeks after the storm hit the island. David?
John Karl, our thanks to you tonight. And we wanted to let everyone at home know that we were in Puerto Rico over the weekend when the shooting broke out here in Las Vegas. And before we left to come here, we had gone to a neighborhood just a short drive from where the president was today. Nearly 2 weeks after the hurricane, we discovered families in sweltering heat, no power, no running water, and a call for help. We went looking for an apartment building just 15 minutes from the airport in San Juan.
Buenas tardes.
Because we had heard that nearly 2 weeks after the hurricane hit, they were still without power and without running water. We walk up this darkened stairwell and down the hallway.
Lisbeth? Hola.
Lisbeth Vasquez Delgado lives in New York City, but she is here taking care of her parents. The president had tweeted just days ago, all buildings now inspected. And we wondered, have they seen any emergency officials or any members of the government here?
We had heard that inspectors had been visiting some of these buildings all over Puerto Rico. Have you seen any inspectors?
No, not at all. They have not come to see what has happened to these apartments.
No one has come?
No one has come.
And how much food and water have they brought?
None.
Nothing?
None at all.
And with no power, no clean drinking water.
Can you drink the water?
No, we cannot. At all.
Inside her parents' tiny apartment, their windows still blown out by Hurricane Maria. And in the bedroom, her parents, Elmer and Gloria, on the bed, in need of medication. This was the first day any doctor had paid a visit.
El primer día.
Yeah, primer día, yeah.
This is the first medicine?
This is the first medicine.
And it's Motrin.
I had a piece of bread, half of bread, and I shared it with like 4 apartments.
Down the hallway, we see other residents, some carrying flashlights, and we head into one of those apartments where we meet a woman Lisbeth has been sharing her bread and water with. Maria Diaz is 70, and she tells us she's been drinking the water from the faucet, even though she knows it's not safe. She holds an empty bottle of water, telling us it cost $6. With little food and no clean water, she is panic-stricken, telling me, I don't want to die here. In so many of these apartment buildings, they are unaware of the FEMA help because they have no power, no access to the news. And tonight, just 7% of the island has power back. This building does not. A generator is turned on a couple of hours a night. And we walk up the stairs knowing there are 13 stories in this building.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Bien?
Bien chava porque no hemos comido.
No comido.
Again, they tell us, no food. Down the hall, you can see the destruction through the window. We step over a doorway blown in by the hurricane. Floor after floor, we hear the same concerns. Well, back down on the 4th floor, Lisbeth, sharing what little bread she has and a slice of cheese with her neighbor.
And I'm not only asking for my parents. There's a lot of people here that don't have family.
And we checked back in with them this afternoon. They are still asking for help tonight. There is still much more ahead on this special edition of World News Tonight this Tuesday. The pressure bomb explosion in New York City. New surveillance tonight, never before seen video when one of those bombs was set off. Also the new health headlines.
Crazy about Elvis.
Echoed in one of his classics.
I thank the fans for such a wonderful life.
Fans and musicians around the world are mourning Petty's loss and celebrating Petty's music. Bob Dylan saying he was full of light and I'll never forget him. David?
Elizabeth, thank you. When we come back here tonight, the new health alert about the link between weight and cancer. And the new surveillance images tonight, the pressure cooker bomb explosion in New York City, what we had not seen before. To the index of other news tonight, new bombing video in New York City. Federal prosecutors revealing surveillance images allegedly showing defendant Ahmed Rahimi wheeling 2 suitcases containing pressure cooker bombs. Never before seen video showing one bomb exploding on the sidewalk last year. 30 people were hurt. The other bomb did not go off. The U.S. expelling 15 Cuban diplomats, the State Department ordering them out of the country, claiming Cuba has not protected American embassy personnel from mystery attacks in Havana. There are now 22 confirmed cases of Americans serving in Cuba suffering from health issues. And the new health headline tonight about obesity and cancer. The CDC revealing evidence linking excessive weight gain with 13 deadly types of cancer, including breast cancer. The report finds being overweight puts you at a much higher risk. Researchers say obesity is tied to about 40% of all cancer cases. Much more on our website. When we come back here tonight, more of the faces of those we lost here, from the Navy veteran to the wife who died in her husband's arms. We remember. And finally tonight here, for all of the heroic efforts of friends, strangers, and the medical teams here in Las Vegas, we cannot forget the 59 lives lost. We learned late today all but 3 have now been identified, and these are some of their faces, the loved ones who didn't make it home. Among them, Nisa Tonks from Las Vegas, a mother of 3 boys. Denise Berditis from West Virginia, married 32 years. She died in her husband's arms. And Christopher Roybal, a Navy veteran, celebrating his 29th birthday. All of their lives cut short at that concert here in Las Vegas. We will stay on this story, and we thank you for watching here on a Tuesday night. I'm David Muir. I'll see you in the morning on GMA and right here for World News Tonight tomorrow night. Until then, have a good evening. Good night.
ABC News, America.